the leveling system of life. Yes, life does have a leveling system, just like the video games that most of us has been playing, all the way from elimination to pure consciousness. And it doesn't go to 99, 100. It actually goes to 1,000, at least on the map of consciousness. And I'm not as versed in the map of consciousness as Eric is, which is why he's here. I'm not just doing this by myself. So, besides, now I've mentioned the real extremes. What is the map of consciousness?
The map of consciousness is a collaboration and a culmination of 20 plus years of research from Dr. David Hawkins, who studied basically human behavior, human emotions, and went super in depth on how we create the power or force that we interact in the world in. And so as he began to study this, he put numbers on different emotions, different feelings. And the more information he got, the clearer this became. So ultimately, yes, from 0, which kind of represents death, to 1,000, which represents like Christ consciousness. It's the universe consciousness. It's all empowering, right? And everything in between. So there's different aspects within this map, of course. And as you would imagine, the higher the level, like the better you are, the better feelings you are, the better outcomes. But it's super cool. He did this within your health, within business, within athletes. I mean, this was like an exhaustive study that he did to create this, which ultimately became his power versus force. And that was the driving factor behind his book.
Besides being dead, I don't think it's possible getting to 0.
It is not. So the lowest on there, I believe, is shame. And I think it is qualified at 20. That's the number he gave it. And so which goes into the understanding of shame is kind of a destructive, disempowering emotion that has zero energy associated with it outside of destruction, right? So beyond shame is 0, which is not living anymore. On the health side, that would be, someone maybe in hospice, someone at end of their life and going in that direction. So it's the same energy. It's the destructive energy, whether that is physical or mental, spiritual, emotional. But yes, to answer your question, yeah, it's shame is the lowest on there.
I like it in the way of it puts yourself into energy. You can actually utilize it, finding out where am I? Am I actually moving in the right direction in some sort of scale?
Correct.
Makes things a lot more simple. So what is a good way to put yourself in the scale, actually making that self-analyzation?
Yeah, there's okay, so part of what he did and how he calibrates this is so let's dive into this first before answering that question, because he utilized kinesiology, muscle testing, and what he found
What's
out.
That?
Okay, muscle testing. So, and you can do this. Anyone listening can do this. This is super cool. And this is like a cool little game you can do with your friends or your family. Just be careful what you ask, because this is kind of like you cannot lie. You can catch someone in a lie with this, because lying actually weakens your system. It weakens your muscles. So your muscles completely respond to your neurological system. So a thought that you have, your muscles are going to react to that. Based on the level of this map of consciousness, that thought is going to create a strong or a weak signal within the muscle. Now, he took that and broadened it. So if we're looking at anger, that's going to be a weaken. But if you look at shame, it's going to be super weak, right? So there's a differentiation, as opposed to above that. And you're looking at, let's say, courage versus love. You're going to have a empowering, and then you hit love and you're going to feel like strong. So it's strengthening or weakening depending on which level you go. So with that, here's what you do. You would have someone else stand there and you would say, okay, close your eyes, hold your arm out. They would hold their arm out, and then they would have their hand right here on their solar plexus, right? And you could ask them, close your eyes, think of a thought of when you felt guilt, and then ensure that they're thinking of the thought. And then you take one or two fingers, push down on their arm. And if they're thinking of a guilty thought of a time that they felt guilty, their arm will go down and you have full power pushing them down. Now, if you switch that and you say, think of a time where you feel loved, right? And then all of a sudden they have a thought, whether it's like their marriage day, they met someone, they graduated, whatever, and they felt support and love. You could take your whole hand and you cannot push their arm down. Simply that thought changes the weakness or the strength in our muscle. Well, this goes into all of our cells. Now, answering your question, you can look at it as, okay, what do I need to look at this map of consciousness for? Am I seeking, like, what am I feeling? And you could like have muscle testing done, right? And to see like what thoughts you were having, you could look at it as, is this food good for me? Hold the food up to your solar plexus, have someone do this muscle test, and you know whether or not if it strengthens you, cool. Your body, it is strengthening your body. If it's weakening you, it is disempowering your body. But the same thing's for thoughts. So you can have this different idea of, okay, I'm angry about something, right? And there's a caveat to anger we'll get to in a little bit, okay? But you're angry about something. So you look at this map, and let's say, I'm going to pull the map out right quick. So you're looking at anger, which according to his map of consciousness, so like the God view is vengeful, the life view is antagonist, so he levels that as anger. Okay, so if you're antagonistic against the world or someone else, you're going to be anger with the emotion of hate. All right, so you have a choice. By looking at this, you can go up levels by transmuting this into the next energy level, right? So you can go up and say, in pride. And pride is actually a disempowering level if you look at it. But when you're starting below it, one step up, leveling up, right, is empowering. So simply by taking pride and seeking like what is best for me, putting yourself first, elevates you that level. And then taking the courage to take action takes you the next level. And then beyond that, you say, okay, I am trusting my innate wisdom, my innate body, my innate understanding of the world to move forward in this energy. All of a sudden, now you've hit the crux of this. And so he calls this the tipping point. So courage is that tipping point to where it's neutral. It's neither empowering or disempowering. And at that point is where you can shift everything and drive the energy up, or you can fall back into negative loop patterns and go back down to anger, despair, grief, and then down to shame, shameful thoughts. So think about it. If you have courage to trust yourself and you're trusting in yourself, there's absolutely no way you can feel shame for what you're doing because you have full trust over here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, in the same way you can't feel angry whilst you're grateful.
Correct.
They don't play together.
Correct.
They can't exist in the same mind. I was about to say room, but none of them are beings, so they don't really exist in that kind of way anyway.
Right.
So is this something we use for one specific scenario or how we feel right now? Or is it more on the lines of this is how we are and on a bigger scale, let's say on a year?
That is an excellent question, and it's more of the larger view. So it's a map of the world is different than the map of a city, right? Map of a city is super specific to that area, where a map of the world is kind of everything. This gives you that worldview map of where am I in comparison to where I want to be, and it allows you to focus on, okay, if I'm sitting here at courage and I want to hop up to love, what does that pathway look like? And then you look at all of the emotions that I'm needing to transmute, and then it gives processes through this. So I need to release, I need to have intention, I need to have an abstract understanding of what I want. So ultimately, in those three things I said, is I need to release this guilt, shame, fear. I need to have intention on where I want to go, not focus on where I've been. And I want to have a clear vision of where I'm going. So by understanding that this map is putting me here, it's like okay, this is where I am, which is good because it's not death. It's not, down here, and I have the ability to move up.
Worse.
It could be a lot worse, right? So it's all relative. But now I can start piecing this together and very methodically, very slowly, very intentionally put the pieces together to move in the direction that I want. And each step I go, even if I'm not leveling up, as we said, I'm still progressing in that level until the point of where it's like, okay, and then bam, now I'm on to the next level, because that's my focus. And some people go their entire life and never switch levels. Other people go and they make leaps and jump a few levels. The awakenings, right? Those who have said, I've had an awakening moment, or I now have clarity. Well, they have clarity because they've transmuted their current state of being into the new state of being, and now they're exhibiting the power within that.
Yeah, I was looking to the map while you were speaking, trying to place myself. I think I decided on forgiveness.
Okay.
Which I'm just basing it out of situations, how I've reacted recently, and out from the emotions and that kind of stuff. Where am I laying? Because the reason why I say forgiveness is I don't feel quite the understanding. I'm on the understanding part yet, because I wouldn't need to be forgiving if I was understanding.
Right.
Because then I would understand what I would forgive for. I was kind of climbing while she was speaking, so at least it went the right way. Could have been worse. Could have been a lot worse.
For sure. And ultimately, before anger, there's not enough energy there to transmute. So that's how weak the energies below anger is. So anger is seen as
what do you mean by that?
Okay. So let me share this with my story. Okay. Because this kind of is how I understand it. I went through, I lived my life through guilt, through shame, which created illness within my body. So there was dis-ease that was associated with this. Also, so on a physical level, my body changed based on these energies. I was disempowering every cell in my body, and my body represented that. So in complete overweight, complete, always tired, no energy, consistently hungry, mental state always down, negative rabbit holes continuously. And then all of a sudden, I started feeling angry. It was a recognition of, who is this person in the mirror? I don't like this. Who is this? And anger entered my state of being. Well, finally, I moved up enough to have enough energy to start transmuting. So the numbers, let's see. So before you get to there, so anger is like at 150. So anything below
Yes.
that does not have enough energy associated with it to begin transmuting to climb the level. So anger is seen in our culture as a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing if it's transmuted correctly. And so in David Hawkins' next book, After Power versus Force and Letting Go, he dives into the power of anger as a way to transmute you into the empowering emotions and thoughts and patterns. It's almost like a springboard. So if you take that anger and you transmute it into actionable items to get you out of this pit, it's super powerful. Or you can say, I'm so pissed off at this and I can't believe this happened. And you start going down this thing. And now you just fed fuel to race back down even quicker. And so now it's this small ebb and flow of anger, despair, anger, despair, anger, despair. And it's that reciprocation of not being good enough. I'm pissed off at not being good enough. So it's going to lead to not being good enough, which is going to feed, as opposed to I'm so sick and tired of this life that I've chosen for myself. I'm going to take ownership and pride, and that anger pushes us into the pride of acceptance of what we've done. And then that energy keeps building, and you're like, okay, now I'm in the next level. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the people that still confused about it after us doing this video about it, because we did a podcast and talked a little bit about this, and I was still confused. All that.
Yeah.
Take a screenshot of your snipping tool or your PC on your phone of one of the times we've had the map of consciousness up on the screen, and remember it and listen back to this.
Mhm.
Just listen to it. Nothing else. Don't watch what happens, all that stuff, because then I think you could, at least for me, could start placing myself.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to add one more piece to that. Here's the important thing that I think sometimes we forget. We believe that interactions and people and outside things affect us emotionally, physically, spiritually, and energetically. And they do. However, the way it affects us is our interpretation of that input. Simply the thought we have about that interaction, about that environment, about that person creates where we are on the map of consciousness. So if you hate your job or you're so mad at the people you're with, you're allowing yourself to travel in a disempowering emotion cascade in this level of consciousness. You can simply close your eyes. And I say simply because it's simple, but it's very difficult. You can close your eyes and reimagine the situations the way that you want it. And all of a sudden you've interpreted the situations totally different in the way that you want to. That's power. And that is transmuting you into a different map of consciousness, which all of your cells, all of your muscles, all of your systems in your body are like, oh, heck yeah, we're experiencing love now instead of anger, despair, because they don't know any different. Right. And it's almost like we're telling ourselves a fake story, but we're not. The only thing we're telling them is, I misinterpreted my experience, but this is the actual interpretation that I want. And when you do that, you start experiencing more of those. And in real time, when you have a disagreement, when you're learning forgiveness in real time is when it happens. And when you're like, oh, this is empowering. And that is like, all right, time to level up, right? Because we've learned this, and let's level up to the next, because now we're doing this in real time. So our action items are now part of our character. They're part of our habitual pattern.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
For people who want a deeper explanation, I'll leave you links down below. Thank you very much for coming on and explaining it to me, Eric.
Yeah.
And also to the person watching. If
Absolutely.
they stay for this long, at least they enjoyed it, or they think we're complete fucking morons either way.
Well,
Thank you
well,
anyway for watching.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.